Join Chris and Suzanne Vester today on Faith, Family, Fulfillment as they lead discussions on creating a strong bond and having a loving relationship through Christian values. Guests on the show share insightful stories and ideas to enhance a positive family upbringing and create trust in one another, as well as providing encouraging words of wisdom everyone should hear. And now, here are Chris and Suzanne.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Faith, Family, Fulfillment. I'm your co-host, Chris.
And I'm Suzanne.
And we're alone today.
Yeah.
I think you're just really starting to enjoy just interviewing me. I think it's part of it. Yeah. Okay. I'll pray and we'll get started.
All right.
Lord, thank you for this opportunity to come together and just have some quality time, discuss what goes on in our life that puts you at the center of our story so that you do get all the glory. I ask that you lead and guide the conversation so that the message that's heard is the one that needs to be heard. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. So today we're going to talk about your quirky habit of getting up when the sun is coming up and walking down our steps into our grass and standing there. There's more to it than that. But if you follow him on social, you'll see that in his stories every single morning. Well, almost every morning. Yeah. And we have a doorbell camera.
I'm sure it's been
that catches you going down the stairs.
Quality time. At least I can get down there without the lamp now. So I get up every morning, and it's actually a habit that I got into. I'm going to refer to it as D-Day. March 15th, 2020, the world shut down completely. But I had spent 3 days in Utah that an event that Steve Weatherford had hosted. I had been invited by a friend of mine, Tyler Harris, as really kind of a special, like Steve was trying to keep it small. And Tyler said, hey, I really got somebody that I think needs to be there. I'm super grateful for that event because of everything that's come from that event. There's a lot of really amazing habits I've learned, a lot of amazing people and connections that I still have in my life that, I mean, we
interviewed several of them.
Interviewed several of them. Ivy was there, Jeff Wint was there, Steve, Ryan Mickler, like a lot of our podcast guests, I can date back to that particular event. But it was called Upgrade Your Human. And we spent 3 days doing things as a tribe. We did Wim Hof breathing. That's WIMHOF. Look him up if you are not familiar with who he is. He looks like a Santa Claus on holiday during the summertime. Mm-hmm. So pretty wild looking fellow, but an amazing guy who has tapped into some special resources of healing and just life hacks. And we were led by a Wim Hof instructor through a large part of it. Her name was Dr. Trish. But Wim Hof breathing, cold exposure, ice baths. We hiked a mountain, 45-minute hike in, 45-minute hike out, wearing nothing but a pair of shorts, basically. And it was snowing that day. Snow was 1.5 feet deep that we were hiking through. And we never got, in fact, I was sweating. It's amazing what you can learn just in controlling your breath. But the very first morning, she taught me that part of the routine, which is kind of a gratitude routine, as well as the idea of grounding, putting your feet on the ground first thing in the morning, recognizing sunrise, getting into a circadian rhythm. And it's important to me because of my family history on both sides, health history, dementia, Alzheimer's, and blood sugar issues run rampant on my mother's side of the family. And on my father's side of the family, it's heart disease. And the idea of how much sleep we need, how much sleep I was getting prior to going to that event, if you'd asked me how much sleep did I get, it was 4 hours a night, most nights, maybe 4 to 5 hours a night. And my answer would have been, if you need more than that, you don't have enough to do. Like that was my braggadocious alpha male response to that question. And having a lot of deep conversations with Dr. Trish and her understanding my health history, she's like, you really have got to start paying attention to your sleep. And I know you've asked me about my morning routine, but this is where it came from. And she said, how much sleep are you getting? And I gave her the normal response. She said, well, we're going to change that thought process. And she said, how about dream sleep? How much of that are you getting? I said, I don't know. I really only watch my deep sleep, your deep sleep, which is where your body recovers. And she said, so you don't really have to pay attention to your REM sleep. And I wear a Whoop band. I've been wearing it for 3 years at this point. And it lets me know how much dream sleep I'm getting. And I was like, yeah, I might get 30, 45 minutes a night. And she goes, well, that's a problem, because the idea of why you dream is the chemical flush your brain gets while you're dreaming. They've had several studies that say that it's cleaning the plaque and all the other issues that could potentially lead to brain malfunction later in life, also along with tons of other things, insulin sensitivity. There's just a lot that goes into it. So she had this long heart-to-heart with me about the importance of sleep and getting into a rhythm of the sunrise and sunset, just spending just 2 or 3 minutes, 5 minutes tops of watching the sunrise in the morning. And if the opportunity presents itself, watching it set. So right now it's a frustrating time of year for me because I don't want to change when I get up a lot. So that 5:25 alarm goes off and it's still pretty dark outside. So about 6 o'clock, I'll go outside and barefoot, regardless of the temperature. I've done it with 9 inches of snow on the ground, barefoot, standing there. And I say, to me, the connection is putting my God-created body on the God-created earth. There's a connection that happens there. And then you can go into the science behind all of that.
Yeah, I will if we have time.
Yeah. And just having 2 things. Number one, asking myself, what's one thing today that I'm grateful for? So if you think about it, I've been doing this since March 15th of 2020, which was COVID shut down the world day, until this morning. And I think since March 15th, 2020 until now, I added it up. I think I've missed 21 days total, either because of travel or because there was a surgical procedure on my knee or whatever. But with very, very few exceptions, I've done that every morning, which means I've figured out a lot of reasons to be grateful to be here. I saw a really good reel yesterday where Ed Milet was talking to Tim Beaulieu from Impact Theory, and he said he literally was being interviewed by a guy, and he says, I had nothing to be grateful for. And then this older couple walked in who both looked like they were battling cancer. And he said, I felt like just a jackass because there's so much to be thankful for, grateful for. But what I have found is just in that little moment of gratitude, whatever it is, and it could be just the simplest things. Sometimes it's complicated. And I try not to repeat myself very often. I mean, at this point, I'm going to repeat myself. I try not to. But throughout the day, if a struggle smacks me in the face, almost immediately, my brain goes to that thing I was grateful for. And it's just shifted. We talked about reaction versus response. It's given me a better ability to respond. It's changed the way I respond in a lot of cases. So just that part of it, and then the other part that's a question thing is what's my purpose, which allows me to reflect on what I call my contract statement of being a bold man who acts with integrity and from love. And I stand as a beacon pointing to God's grace and mercy. That's my purpose, So that's something that gets repeated daily. That is on repeat. And once the sun's up, right now it's really difficult. I'm so ready for a time change. But there's 2 other things that happen. It's called soft focused, hard focus. And so the first time I went through that practice with Dr. Trish, the idea is you stand there, you kind of gain control of your breathing, you steady your breathing, and you do what's called hard focus, which means you pick something that's 25, 30 yards away and really intently focus on it and just really try to hone in and get everything else should fade away, but that thing. We've got a tree that's about that far. So I try to pick a limb on that tree. Or even when during the summertime, it's a leaf on the tree. It's something very, very specific. And you do that for about 30 seconds. And then you go into what's called soft focus, which means you focus on nothing. You're her explanation is, imagine you're in a snow globe and you're trying to see all around you. Like you're just trying to really open up and not focus on any one particular thing. So when we came in from that exercise, doing it the first time, we were kind of unpacking the exercise. We always unpacked everything so she could teach, so everybody could kind of ask questions and all that. And it was funny. Steve Weatherford was sitting right there he was sitting by my knee. And I asked the question, I said, I've got a question about the soft focus. I said, because I can't do that. And he leaned over and goes, man, I'm glad I'm not the only one. And she says, well, what do you do? Like, what's your occupation? So I kind of explained to her, running the businesses and what my role in the business was. And she said, so basically every day, all day, you're just looking for problems to solve, or people are bringing you problems to solve. And I said, yes, ma'am. And she goes, well, you're going to have to teach yourself this, because right now, all you're doing is hard focus all day long. And you're going to have to teach yourself how to not focus, which was a weird concept. And she and I had more one-on-one conversation about that. And I remember it was probably 20 days later or so. It was into April. So we go into, we finished out May or March and get into April, and the car business has just come to a screeching halt, which has got everybody in a panic, which made those mornings even more important. Mm-hmm. Finding something to be grateful for every day and working on that ability to not focus on something hard, because every single day was hard focus because of the state of the world around us. And I remember the very first day that I was able to just literally put everything into a fuzz. Like everything went fuzzy. Like there was nothing sharply focused on in my point of view. It was wild because when it happened, I remember like all of a sudden everything got clear again. It's like my body was fighting that tendency, or fighting that idea of not focusing. But I kind of just kept doing it, and I kind of felt what it was supposed to be like. And it was funny because that morning I kind of refocused my gratitude. I was grateful for the ability to do what I was trying to do, because I felt like it would have long-term positive effects. And I immediately sent her an Instagram message, which broke all the rules because you're not supposed to look at your phone. I said, guess what I did today, and it was about self-focus. So yeah, that morning routine is like, there's so much that goes into just the mental attitude and mindset of the day. And it's first thing. And the idea of doing it at sunrise is the ability to sleep better. So I've been tracking my sleep since 2018. And you could look at my sleep deficit with the app that I use. And it was just a steady, it looked like a mountain, like it was steadily sinking. So I was just missing more and more and more sleep. And then all of a sudden, dead middle of March of 2020, there's a bottoming point. And then from that point out, it's a slow tick upward. It's not as sharp as how I was robbing myself of sleep. It's a much harder thing to gain it back, but it's headed towards baseline. It might take me 10 years to get there, but it's headed more towards a baseline of, I am now no longer in a quote unquote lifelong sleep deficit, or at least not since 2018. Because now I do try to get, 6.5, 7 hours of sleep. It's changed. Like I would go to bed at midnight before and wake up at 4, 5 o'clock at the latest. And now it's 10:30. We might push it to 11 o'clock. Or I might push it. You won't. But yeah, roughly 10:30 is kind of bedtime, and 5:25 is wake up time. And it's changed my recovery. It's changed my dream sleep drastically. I get at least 4 cycles most nights when I'm healthy. If my body's healthy, I'm getting 4 good cycles of sleep. But yeah, so the grounding part of it, you can go into that because you actually know as much about that, probably more than I do, of the reality of what good can come from putting your feet on the ground first thing in the morning. But the sunrise sunset part of it is 12 to 14 hours after watching a sunrise, your brain produces chemicals that will help you fall asleep. And it's 100% true. So like right now, that routine's a little bit broken up from what I want it to be ideally, but I come back inside, I grab Blue and we go walk. And as I walk, the sun comes up. So I'm still seeing that. I'm still watching the sunrise. So I'm getting that aspect. It's just not timed perfectly with my my moment of gratitude and all that, like I want it to be. But yeah, so that's a big part of it. Tell them about the grounding part of it. Like you said, my quirky routine. To most people, me walking out there in the snow would definitely be quirky. Yeah. I can't, that's the days I get responses.
Yeah.
You do this even when it's snowing outside. Yeah, it was raining this morning. Mm-hmm. Did it anyway. But yeah, the walking through 8-9 inches of snow in bare feet gets people's attention. They want to know, like, what's that about?
Right. So grounding in its very basic form is just allowing your body to have that moment of connection and release of negatives. And while that might sound odd or strange, but think about it in terms of in the wintertime when the air is really dry, and let's say you have on a big fuzzy sweater and wool socks, and you touch someone and there's a spark, like you can feel it. That is one of the two of you unloading that charge into the other person. Same thing happens when you put your feet in the dirt or in the grass or in nature in general. It just allows your body to release any energies that aren't going to serve you. And I don't know if most people, I would say probably not so much now, but I know when I was younger and when you were younger, it was an oddity for you to have your shoes on outside, like if it wasn't cold or wet. And sometimes even when it was cold and wet, just because that's what you did. But I remember distinctly, and even as an adult, when you just walk outside with your feet in nature, regardless of the time of day, there's a sense of immediate calm that happens in your body. And if you haven't tried that, if you're listening, you really need to, because it's real. Right. It's a very real thing. It's much similar to when I would do like energy response testing or energy muscle testing with clients. My body acts as a battery with their body. So if you put the positive ends together, they're going to push apart. If you put a positive and negative together, it's going to have a connection. It helps you to figure out what's going on physically. But in very simple terms, just go get your feet dirty.
Yeah, it's a real thing. It's so many of the things that I've experienced. Some of them started specifically that weekend, like the ice baths, and how not even understanding in the moment why I was doing all of that, is what it would lead to later. But what it led to more than anything is me starting to study, hey, number one, why did it suck so bad the first time? Because it sucked, man. It was the longest minute and a half. And it took 2.5 hours before my feet got right, but I had never done an ice bath before. And it was the thing I was the most concerned about. I mean, prior to going out there, every time I talked about it, I was like, man, I'm scared to death of the ice bath. So we do that. The first night we get there, we just jump in head first, not literally to the ice bath head first, but jump into our activities. And we get up the next morning, and that's the morning that she taught us the morning routine, the gratitude and all that. And then we left and we go to a lake. The air temperature that day was 39 degrees. The water temperature was roughly the same because it ended up snowing. It started snowing while we were doing this next activity, and it ended up snowing for like 5 hours. But we, again, got into our bathing suits, walked into this water, 37, 38 degree water, so ice bath temperature water in Utah, and we formed a circle. So we were all holding on to one another, and we're neck deep in the water. And again, it's only the second time that I've had cold exposure, but every time we did an activity, like I told you, we would kind of unpack it, and we would unpack it with one word. Like, what's your one word you're feeling right now? And when it got to me, I was like third or fourth in line. And I said, guys, and there was 19 of us there. I was like, the craziest thing is getting ready to come out of my mouth, but I am comfortable. Like, my breathing wasn't accelerated. I wasn't shivering. I wasn't wishing we were getting out. Like, I would have been fine to hang out there for a while. And there was a guy that was in the group who had literally climbed Everest twice in his life. And he was really, really struggling. Like, he was shivering, and you could tell he was having a really hard time. And Dr. Tricia told us, hey, pay attention to everybody. And if you see somebody struggling, just keep looking at them until they make eye contact. And when they make eye contact, don't break it. And so he was on the other side of this big circle and just, literally shivering. and I'm going through my being comfortable, and he's got his eyes closed and he's fighting it and this dude's been to the top of Everest. I've never done that. He's done some pretty hard things. And after like 2 or 3 people, I'm just staring at him, and he opens his eyes and we make eye contact, and I don't break eye contact. And inside of 15 seconds, you can see his body settle, his breathing settled. He wasn't fighting it. The shivering stopped, like everything about it, And then it got to be his turn, and he goes, well, like, I'm going to have to agree with Chris. This is crazy, but I'm comfortable. It was just so how did my body adapt so quickly to that? So I just really started studying it. And then you understand that, when you put your body under an intentional, stressful situation like that, it allows you to handle the situations that pop up that are stressful, because your body doesn't know the difference in the stresses. So the stress of stress, like daily work stress, the stress of being in an accident or getting bad news, like your body doesn't know the difference between that and being intentionally suffering in an ice bath.
Can't distinguish between
the hards.
Right. It can't between life-threatening and just irritating.
Right. It doesn't know. I say it like it's a separate thing, but the flood of the chemicals, the physiological body response is identical, and they've proven that. So that more often you can put yourself in a bad situation, super cold showers, ice baths, saunas, like things that are ridiculously uncomfortable, pull yourself through them, fight through the hard part of it till you settle in and kind of get comfortable. Well, then again, no different than the gratitude. When something smacks you in the face, like a 2x4 across the face sometimes during the middle of the day, you know how to handle the stress because you've been intentionally putting yourself in stressful situations. And then number 2, like that gratitude thing keeps coming back. So if you can focus on, man, my life doesn't suck, even though this sucks.
Right.
A lot of times I think, and this probably goes to the fulfillment part of us, and for sure in the faith part of it, because of where I draw my strength from. All this is not about me drawing strength from ice baths and all that. It's just, hey, that's helping me hack my body, But my gratitude always focuses on what the Lord's provided to me. So, but if you can recognize in the moment, hey, these are the provisions I've been given, the talents I've been given, the opportunities I've been given, this tribe of people I've been given around me, like they're easy for me to be grateful for. So this might suck right now, this thing, this situation, this moment, but my life as a whole, like it's pretty dead burn good. It just shifts you into a response mode versus react mode. It's amazing what walking down a set of 3 steps and putting your feet in the dirt and just having that. And it takes, here's the craziest thing about it. It's less than 5 minutes right now because the sun's not up. So it's put my feet in the dirt, have a second. Hey, what am I grateful for? What's my purpose? And I turn and come right back inside. It's less than 2 minutes now. Now my walk is longer than that because I'm walking blue, but yeah, those 2 things, purpose and gratitude, along with, like you say, I don't care how sopping wet or how cold or even how hot the grass is those mornings, like it feels amazing to put my feet on the dirt or our grass. Like our grass isn't super thick and tall, so I never hit the dirt really, but it's on the ground, just connecting to what beauty God has created. So, but I really do like it when I can see. It makes it a little better.
Yeah. So gratitude and grounding both give your body a reset. It's one of the things that I stress a lot when I'm talking to folks who are under a great amount of stress, whether it's self-imposed or things they can't control. Because when you practice gratitude, that is allowing for the good to creep in. And when you start focusing on good, you start seeing more good.
Oh, yeah.
And when you put yourself into a situation where you are grounded or doing hard things, not that you necessarily have to do the hard things to get grounded, but if you can do those in conjunction, then your threshold for what is going to trigger you is going to be lower. So where you may have been, at a 10, you might be at a 3 or 4 now. So you're not going to spiral out and, kind of, I don't want to say lose your mind because that's a really pejorative statement, but you're not going to end up quite as mentally negative as you would have before, because your threshold has been brought down so much lower, and then you get to reset, because then that's your new starting point.
Right.
And that's when you start looking for the good and understanding that anything you can do to lower that threshold is going to serve you very well in the long run. It's going to make a big, big difference.
Yep.
So maybe 5 minutes, but it's going to make a big difference.
Yep, for sure. And it's so important to me. I mean, we're ordering, some people have a hot tub at their house.
Mm.
We're ordering an ice tub. So it's at any given point, I can go get in it at 37. It goes down to 37 degrees and it stays there. It's a refrigerated tub. That's how I feel about it. I think it can be a vital part of a weekly routine. I know some people that do it daily, but I think it's for sure part of even Avery has said that she knows she deals with anxiety differently. That she knows how to take an ice bath. And if she can't get into an ice bath, a cold shower, putting herself in a physically uncomfortable place.
It's a reset for sure.
Oh yeah. And I'll recommend to anybody who's got, well, most everybody feels like they have a super stressful job, regardless of the level of leadership they're at. Stress is a real thing.
And it does not discriminate.
No, it does not.
It's across the board.
It's across, yeah. But if you'll take an opportunity to just try the hard focus, soft focus activity, meaning stand, preferably barefoot in the grass, and just steady your breathing, like pay attention to your breathing, so that it's a steady rate. And once it's steady, spend 30 seconds focusing on something 25, 30 yards away, just as intently as you possibly can. And then immediately try to switch over and not focus at all. And see how difficult it is based on how stressful your life is. Like it's the higher stress job or higher stress life you're leading right now is going to lower your ability to soft focus. But when you're handling stress effectively, let me say it that way, when you're learning how to handle stress effectively, then you're going to see that soft focus becomes something you can routinely come in and out of. Like how to move your body, how to move your mind and your eyes in and out of that space. And it's not work. It just is. And it's a real thing. I know some of this sounds like hocus pocus, which I know in the world and space that you're in, everybody feels like it's hocus pocus.
Yeah. Yeah.
Naturopathy's that way, but it's legitimate. In the leadership development stuff, guys that struggle with either, we've been doing it a year and a half, and through the course of that year and a half, we've had people that struggled with anger management. We've had people that struggled with stress management. We've had people that struggled with stress response. We've had people that struggled with even inflammation. So there's it could be just a true physical manifestation of stress.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? Or their ability to handle stress. And one of the first places I go with them is, hey, let's learn how to take a cold shower and see if you can evolve into an ice bath. In so many instances, they'll get 3 weeks in and they go, man, my wife has even said I'm different. Something's different, and it's funny. I've coached guys one-on-one and we've reached that same conclusion. Because one of them came to me specifically because he was irate, blowing up to me, way up the leadership chain. And I mean, that sounds derogatory, but there's a lot of levels of management between he and I, but we do have a long history of life together. And to the point that I fired him. You got to go, man. Just pack your boxes. This is not working. Very calmly said, you just got to go. And he walked out and he literally started packing stuff up, and he came back in. He goes, man, I'm not trying to save my job, but man, you got to show, how did you do that? Because I know 5 years ago, we'd have been thrown down in the middle of the floor, having words. And that's you never raise your voice. You never, your voice never cracked, your breathing never, I was noticing, what is wrong with, why is Chris not responding to
reacting?
This? Yeah, reacting. Yeah, why is he not reacting to what I'm trying to, he was trying to provoke it.
Right.
When you're angry, you want other people to be angry with you. And I said, I just have learned how to respond differently. And he goes, I'm not trying to save my job, but can you teach me that? And I said, yeah, let's make a condition of your rehire. I'll bring you back on, but you've got to sit with me once a week and we got to go through this. In 12 weeks, he took an ice bath or a cold shower. Well, he started at 15 seconds. He could handle 15 seconds of the cold. And then by the third or fourth week, he was taking nothing but cold shower. Like he wasn't even turning the hot water on. And he's like, man, it's crazy. And I mean, he came into me as, I know it's making a difference because things aren't bothering me as bad anymore. I was like, yeah, it's a real thing. Something as simple as dousing yourself in cold water. You know, it's a reason it works for dogs. You know, it stops them in their tracks. It'll stop you too, but it makes you reassess. And then moving into the next thing, which is the hard focus, soft focus, because I think it was so telling for me to not it was frustrating that I couldn't, really frustrating. But when I did, I felt accomplished. I had figured something out here. Mm-hmm. And it's definitely worthwhile to try.
Last thoughts on gratitude.
So, one of the other, I wish I could remember where I read it or heard it. I think it was a sermon. I think it was Erwin McManus had a sermon about the importance of gratitude. And Erwin always does a lot of scientific stuff in his sermons. I love him. He's so creative. But he talked about how they've studied people who are grateful versus people who are not grateful. And then they look at the elasticity of their brain.
Let me pause for a second. So practicing gratitude and not practicing gratitude. Oh my God. So you said grateful and not being grateful. So who practices gratitude and who's not practicing gratitude?
Those who are actively practicing, having gratitude, finding a thing to be grateful for.
Right.
That's what you mean by practicing gratitude. Yeah, it's one thing just to say that you're grateful, but it's another thing to dive down every single day deeply and start identifying the things. That's an expression of gratitude.
Right.
It's way different. And way more intentional. And what they have found is people who intentionally worked on gratitude versus those that didn't. And they looked at the elasticity of their brain. In other words, how their brain functioned, their ability to learn new things, their ability to handle change, to handle stress, the incidence of Alzheimer's and dementia and all other brain cognitive functioning issues. And there is a drastic difference in those who actively practice gratitude daily versus those that don't in every single one of those areas. Longevity is one of them. How long they're able to function with full capacity is drastic. So it's a huge, huge physiological reason to do it. If you always want to be able to learn, you always want to be able to, in the moment, focus on the good versus the bad, being more of a positive mindset. There are real reasons, but for me, it's finding something new and truly expressing. I said, it's about the people in my life, about the opportunities in my life, and about a lot about my health. But I know where those come from, and we talk about when we pray, you pray with, it's acts, right? You pray with adoration, confession, thanksgiving, which is gratitude and supplication. And for me, that's just going straight to Thanksgiving. I say I am grateful for, but it's recognizing the source of those gifts for me. So it's definitely a deeply spiritual practice for me, no different than my purpose statement. So to be able to start off and having that moment of gratitude, finding something new to be grateful for today, and then following up with my statement, with my purpose statement. Because then I do my Bible study. So I do all that before I even begin my Bible study every day.
So you would agree that it sets the tone for your
whole day,
for your perspective, your lens for the day.
Yeah. Which is why I get so agitated if I come back inside from the walk and everybody's screaming in the morning. I've had a really good morning so far. Why are you yelling?
Most of the house isn't really up at the same time right now. True. So you're in.
I'm clear right now. Yeah. But yeah, it sets the tone for my day, and it's not just it's the whole day. It's the whole day. And then if the timing of my day works perfectly, right, and I'm coming home and it's roughly sunset, when I get out of my car, I'll just stand and stare at the sunset. Same thing, just 2 or 3 minutes. Hard focus, soft focus, just like I started, just like I started my day, and remembering, hey, this is what you were grateful for this morning. It's just a reminder of constantly being grateful, expressing, and mentally picking it out and expressing gratitude. So yeah, it's just my day for sure. Right.
Anything else you want to add?
No, I think we're good.
All right.
Unless you got some more questions.
Well, we'll continue another time. So I will pray us out. Father God, thank you for giving us the ability to seek the good and know that it's coming directly from you. And then to understand that we are beautifully made, perfectly made. We're the ones who get in our own way. Help us to understand how to be grateful and how to practice true gratitude and how to steward our bodies well. And these things we agree. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Faith, Family, Fulfillment, brought to you by Chris and Suzanne Vester. We hope you enjoyed listening to this week's guests and stories. If you liked what you heard, please consider subscribing wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow Chris and Suzanne on Instagram at HVAUTOCOO and Suzanne.c.Vester. That's at SUZANNE.c.VESTER.